space. The Ministry of Defence has recently approved several orders for stocks like BEL, Bharat Dynamics and Garden Reach. Vivek is here with the roundup. Vivek, typically it's that last period of the fiscal which has a lot of bunched up orders coming in, right? So how's the picture looking this time?
Well, absolutely. Entire FY23, if you had to look at the defense space, one particular space that was typically abuzz on the back of swelling order books, mainly on the back of the fact that the indigenization, the Make in India and the Atmanirbhar Bharat, being the key buzzwords as far as the entire space is concerned. But now, all of those words are being translated into actual, booking as far as number one, revenue, order inflow, and swelling order books are concerned for the entire defense space. So, what's actually happened is that for FY23, you actually have had three companies that have come up and given their revenue as well as order book updates. So first on the list, Bharat Electronics, very strong update. Revenues up almost 15% on a year-on-year for FY23. Order book is at 60,500 crore and FY23 order inflow at 20,200 crore, largely in line with what the street was anticipating. HAL, revenues up almost 8% on a year-on-year basis. Order book at 82,000 crore and order inflow for FY23 coming in at 26,000 crore. A slight disappointment there, but largely on the back of the fact that these order bookings are quite lumpy in nature. GRSE, Garden Reach Shipbuilders, revenues up 45% on a year-on-year basis, and also some news flow coming in from BHL in terms of large order flows that have come in. ICICI Securities has actually written a detailed note, especially taking into account that the Ministry of Defence has placed orders over 44,240 crore just in the last week of FY23, and on the back of that, they are quite positive on the entire PSC utility space as far as the defense spaces are concerned. Their top picks are BEL. They've gone ahead and upgraded Bharat Dynamics to a buy from an ad that they had earlier, and Garden Reach, they are quite negative at this point of time. They continue to have a negative or a reduced rating on the stock.
Very much for that. In fact, on that note, let's welcome Amit Dixit of ICICI Securities on the show to take a few questions. Amit, morning, and thanks so much for joining in. Orders galore, right, for the defense companies in the last 1 week itself. We've seen orders worth 44,000 crore and plus. Can you tell us the total order wins in FY23, if you have that number? How does it compare with the last couple of years and the individual order books of all these PSU companies?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me here. So if you look at the order book, there was a concern on the street that order accretion might not be substantial this year, given that in case of Bharat Electronics, for instance, the order book for last 2 quarters was at like the lowest level in past 2 years. So if you compare on back of that, the order accretion that has happened in the last week of the year has been substantial. And when I say substantial, the orders that have come in are, again, in defense, for example, in HAL, there was a substantial order when the Tejas was on the annual. But then, you have typically periods when things might not be that chunky. However, as against the expectations, I would say that Bharat Electronics completely ticks all the boxes. 15% revenue growth, just what management guided, and the order inflow of above 20,000 crores. Now, this is not all. If you look at it going ahead, what we believe that if you look at BDL's order, for example, for the 3rd and 4th Regiment of Akash, Bharat Electronics will have definitely a finger in the pie. Now, going ahead, even if you look at the naval orders, so there also, Bharat Electronics will definitely have a role to play. So that's why we consider Bharat Electronics at a real sweet spot at this point in time. And given the fact where the price is, we believe that there is a good 30% upside in the stock from this level.
Okay. So that's about BEL, 30% upside. The share, the company is placed in a sweet spot. But just to get some numbers in, Amit, for the full year, what has been the overall order inflows that have been handed out by the Ministry of Defence? And how does it compare? Are we really seeing a step up in defence orders?
Yeah, certainly. So if you see the capital procurement, ever since FY18, if you compare it from last year, compare it from FY18, you will see that the capital procurement year over year has gone up, and this year being no exception. Now, what we were slightly concerned before these orders came in that if you look at the FY23, the budgeted numbers versus the expenditure that had been done till December 22, I mean, there was a wide gap as far as the Air Force and the Navy are concerned. So, in fact, the utilization of budget for Navy and Air Force was to the tune of just 50 to 55%. Now, with these orders coming in, I believe that for Air Force, we still believe that the complete utilization has not been there. But for Navy and for Army in particular, I think they will cross the line. So clearly the orders have been higher, except in case of Air Force.
Okay, Amit, got that. Let's talk about your other pick as well. I think you like Bharat Dynamics, and what a journey for the stock, right? I was just tracing 1 year movement. It was at about 550 today. That stock is sitting at 970. So you like it despite the huge price run up? What are the triggers here?
Yeah, so Ravi, so if you look at Bharat Dynamics, last couple of years have been a little bit on the slower side because people were expecting this Akash third and fourth segment to flow in. Now that has finally happened. So I would say a big overhang on the stock is gone. Going ahead, what we believe that in fact the QRSAM testing happened in the beginning of the year. So that order should flow in around 2 years of time, and that is a substantial order around 14,000 odd crores. Now, in more immediate terms, we would think that MRSAM for Navy should flow in. So clearly now the orders will start flowing in. So if you look at 6 months down the line, Bharat Dynamics would be a different story from what it is now. You will have more clarity on MRSAM. You will have more clarity on MRSAM for Army. I mean, I was talking about Navy earlier. You will have more clarity for Army. QRSAM, you will have more clarity on. Apart from the fact that they are also developing their new facilities and particularly the development that is happening in Jhansi along defense corridor. I think these are something that are very substantial for the stock. So if you look at the stock performance, I mean, we believe that in case of revenue, the 3,200 crores revenue they will book this year. Next year, it will be around 3,800, no doubt about that. And going ahead, we see that that considering that big chunky orders, QRSAM, MRSAM, they are in the pipeline. So the order book and the realization can only go up from there.
Okay, got that. Amit, thanks for joining us. On Hindustan Aeronautics, can you tell us if you have any, view on this after the stake sale? And in general, for a lot of these, PSU stocks, there's that constant overhang, right, of a stake sale, of an OFS. Do you think that hits the valuations that are attributed to these?
Yeah, so Hindustan Aeronautics, I mean, if you look at the stock, that's kind of an evergreen stock. And in fact, the OFS was a trigger for people to get it. Now, for Hindustan Aeronautics, so specifically, we believe that in the near term, we see very limited triggers. The reason being that next 2 years, I think, would be probably on, repairs and overhaul. This kind of revenue would be booked into the extent of 40%. Manufacturing would be a tad lower. They will be completing whatever are on annual. I think the biggest trigger for Hindustan Aeronautics is the development around Mark 1A and the news flow around Mark 2. I think that is something that is to be looked at next for the stock. So given the fact that a lot of things are kind of placed in the stock, we would think that it will consolidate at this level until more clarity emerges on Mark 1A and Mark 2.
Very quickly, Amit, you said in Q2 and Q3, the street was disappointed because the order inflows, the order book numbers were disappointing. But considering that we've seen a slew of orders in the month of March, will Q4 positively surprise? What are you baking in terms of Q4 expectations from these companies?
No, so, in defense, first of all, unlike many of the sectors, one should not look at quarter on quarter. But given the fact that, in Q4, for instance, when Bharat Electronics management said that we will get an order inflow of roughly 15,500 crores, I mean, and we were sitting in February, mid of February. I mean, a lot of people thought that it was impossible. And therefore, that is also depicted in the stock movement. The stock didn't move anything from there. But now, given the fact they have achieved their guidance, I believe all is well that ends well. So this year has ended well for them. Next year, I guess, with the pace picking up on Bharat Dynamics order, that is Akash 3rd and 4th Regiment. So I believe in terms of next year, they're already sitting very nicely on order inflow of roughly 8 to 9,000 crores from Akash 3rd and 4th Regiment and the trickle-down effect of naval orders. So that's why we are quite positive on Bharat Electronics.
Okay, so that is a slew of defense-related stocks that Amit likes. Thanks very much. A good conversation as always. Thank you for joining in, and we look forward